all my friends say to me, you should be doing something else with your life. Like, you're not doing enough. You're wasting yourself. Why aren't you doing these amazing things? And, she started telling me how she had a career. She lived in Japan. She's done amazing things. And I said to her, well, all of the friends that are probably telling you that, they're working hard so they can live the life that you've now actually got. And so she was sort of like, oh, it's very true.
Welcome to Your Second Act, the podcast that proves that life doesn't have to end at 40, 50, or even 60, because when it comes to living your best life, age is just a number. Hi, gorgeous. Thank you so much for popping me in your ears again. I hope you're well. I hope you're happy. I hope you're thriving, because midlife is the time to do it. And hopefully you've, jumped on because you're really keen to hear another story, a story that will inspire you and maybe give you an aha moment. And if it does, I'm doing my job, and this is why I do it, because I'm here to inspire everybody to live a better and more purposeful life. Today's episode is a special one because it actually came about through a listener's recommendation. Bless this lady. I was just so thrilled to hear that. And it's such a great reminder how sharing and talking about the podcast helps these conversations reach even more women. So if you're enjoying this one, I'd really love it if you could rate the show and share it with a friend. And it's a bit of a milestone too for Your Second Act, because for the first time I've got not one, but I've got two guests joining me. Matt Elliott and Susan Pearse have co-written a book called Winning the Second Half, hence why she found my podcast, all about how to make the most of midlife. And what I loved about this conversation is how hearing from both a male and a female point of view really gives you a better understanding of not what we're just going through, but what our partners might be experiencing too, even though they don't always say it out loud. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I just hope poor Matt didn't feel too outnumbered by Susan and myself. So if you've ever wondered what midlife looks from both sides, you're going to really, really love this episode. Welcome, guys, to Your Second Act. I'm so excited to have you guys because this is also a milestone for me. I've never had a three-way conversation on the podcast. So that's pretty exciting. Welcome.
I'm really excited to be here. Hopefully, I get a little bit in. Susan might make it two-way.
Well, the other way around.
Yeah. I have watched a few of your interviews, and Matt, you're not backwards in coming forwards, let's just say. So I'm pretty sure you'll be part of the conversation. But before we get into our conversation, I do want to thank and give a shout out to the lady at Jag in Noosa, because you're probably thinking, Matt, what the hell is she talking about? If it wasn't for her, the three of us would not be having this conversation. Hey, Susan.
That's very true. And that's actually where a very interesting story about midlife actually starts. So as part of my midlife reinvention, I decided to move part-time to Noosa. And so every day that I'm there, I just have this glorious time of hiking the Noosa National Park, going for a swim. If I'm running a little bit late, by the time I'm kind of walking back to my place, the shops are opening. So I kind of combine the nature with more the hedonistic pleasures. And so went into Jag this day, and I was just talking to the lady there, another second halfer, who was, we were just kind of going, what an amazing life here. And she's like, yeah, I get to go for a swim in the ocean before work. I get to do all these great things. And I said to her, you are living your best life. And she said, well, it's funny because all my friends say to me, you should be doing something else with your life. Like, you're not doing enough. You're wasting yourself. Why aren't you doing these amazing things? And, she started telling me how she had a career. She lived in Japan. She's done amazing things. And I said to her, well, all of the friends that are probably telling you that, they're working hard so they can live the life that you've now
Sure.
actually got. And so she was sort of like,
Absolutely.
oh, it's very true.
Yeah. So then she happened to tell you about another lady that had walked in who had a podcast on midlife, and this is how we met. I can't believe she actually remembered me. So when I get this email from Susan saying, hey, it's a bit of a stab in the dark, but are you Michelle from your second act? So I thought, yes. And here we are. Anyway, so thank you to the lady at Noosa for connecting us. And, we're
Absolutely.
here today to discuss your great book. But what I really love is how the two of you, Matt, you're an ex-professional rugby league coach and elite athlete, and Susan, a renowned wellness expert, you've come together to write Winning the Second Half, bringing both a male and a female perspective on what it means to thrive in midlife. And there's so much to unpack here. And I mean, between the two of you, which I find really exciting, is that you've both had conversations with the Dalai Lama and Deepak Chopra. So that is quite a combination. So how did you two actually come together to write this book?
You want me to answer that, Susan?
Yes, Matt.
So one of my very good friends and mentor, Leon Naxon, owned Hay House Australia for a very long time, and Susan's a Hay House author. And I had a podcast with a really well-known rugby league player called Anthony Minicello, who works in my business. And I won't give you the full story here because it could go a little bit too long. But so Leon suggested we get Susan on the podcast, and we got Susan on and interviewed Susan, and then we hung up, and me just looked at me and went, I won't use the phraseology that he did, but went, holy cow, we've just spent the last hour and 10 minutes talking to you, but in another person. So that's kind of how the connection started. And
Yeah, wow.
this was going to be my second book, and I wrote a manuscript to it, and I read it and went, oh, this is really bad. Not because it was really blokey. Do you know what I mean? It was, but the other thing about blokes in the second half of life, and I'm talking to myself here at the same time, is a part of thriving in the second half of life is understanding your partner. And there's so much, lack of understanding of each other that it wasn't just about bringing two perspectives. It was also bringing another perspective of, look, these are some of the things that you might need to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that in itself, when Susan was telling me about the book, I thought that's really clever, bringing two perspectives, because we are so different, men and women. We deal with any stage of life in a different way. And when she was telling me about your past, the fact that you basically being in rugby, being surrounded predominantly by men, I thought, wow, here's a man who's put himself out there to discuss feelings, which I think is amazing. I think we need more of that. So I'm sure the two of you have learnt so much about each other by writing this book. So, Susan, what perspective have you gained from Matt's insights into his midlife and the way he approaches midlife?
So much, really, because I probably went into it with the same kind of view that you're talking about, that women's perspectives are just going to be so different. I mean, men don't have menopause riding shotgun at midlife. And so I'm thinking, we're just going to have such different perspectives. But as we came to speak about every topic, I started to see that those differences merged at some point to be real similarities. So, Matt stepped up to kind of lead some of the emotions chapters and chats that we were having. And I remember kind of raising my eyebrows at the time going, okay, the man's going to, move forward with the emotions chapter, knowing that, it's usually women that are seen as the emotional sex. But just the insights and to actually see that, how the emotional conditioning of men, even though it's different to women, it's the same outcome in that we are both encouraged by the world to suppress our emotions. And then when he went
Yeah.
forward into leading some of the solutions to that, it just made me go, as women, we complicate things just too often. Like, we're dealing with the complexities of the roller coaster of emotions in really complex ways, and the simplicity of his approaches just really, learned heaps about it.
Yeah. And what about you, Matt? What did you learn from
I
Susan's
guess
perspective?
like the key learning for me, and something that I've really now consciously brought into my life is that, and I agree with Susan. And the reason why I needed to understand emotions was because I had some challenges around it. And when it's not that I'm dumb, no one ever taught us what emotions are for. I was just
Yeah.
told that they were weakness, which is completely wrong. Is completely
Yes.
wrong. But and attached to that is what I learned from Susan is that what men are really bad. Look, I'm not going to ring my friend up. He's got a lot on and he's busy, and and our inability to stay connected and to continue to connect with people that we care about, or we're close to, as opposed to women who
Mm.
have such a strong ability to to remain connected regardless of the challenges, whether it be proximity, whether it be, all sorts of things. And that support, that emotional support, and those development of relationships and the evolution of relationships, that was the thing I sat back and went, oh shit, we're so bad at this.
Yeah.
Like, I've got all these people that I love, like guys that that I've spent my whole life with and have had some amazing experiences, and I ring them once a year. Merry
I know.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, so that
Mm.
was probably my key. And Susan will tell you, I'm all about tools. Well, tell me information's great, but what is it I can do? So that's something I've started doing. And it's really funny how that small prompt there's a few of us starting to get some momentum with it.
Mm.
So, what do you think it is why men feel this way? Apart from the conditioning, which, boys don't cry, you shouldn't show your emotion. What stops you from reaching out to another male for help?
Can't walk past that conditioning, first of all,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
our subconscious conditioning is so powerful in this area that, you're, and particularly in our age orbit, you're here to support, to build support, to bring finance to a situation, to be the person that can be relied upon. And I think that's a massive part of it. And I don't even, is that a part of our genetic makeup? I'm not sure. Perhaps,
Yeah. Yeah.
because when you look, we both had different roles. That's why we're designed differently.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't want to really discuss that side of things. But as we've evolved, you know, and I've got a fair bit of evidence that the males in my orbit, haven't done this really well, because if you look at the mental health outcomes, and some of them aren't very great. And then when you see how we try and protect ourselves, and I look at leaders around the world who are in my orbit, it's not a lot to be proud of, is there?
No, no, not at all. And what was
Mm.
interesting was that you guys surveyed over 600 Australians over the age of 40 as part of your book. And one of the big findings was that men are more likely to just be surviving, while women are often looking for growth and adventure. And that was really interesting when I read that, because I completely agree. And being in this space where I'm speaking to so many men and women in midlife, women are so excited to be in midlife and are just shedding the no F era. It's like, I don't care anymore. And
Yeah.
I'm finding that men, I sort of feel like they want to step up to that, but there's something that's holding them back. So when I read that, I thought, yeah, they're likely to just be surviving, which is really sad. And Susan, have you found that speaking to females and the ones that you also surveyed?
Yes, and I think, it kind of highlights that, again, the similarity is that both sexes have this midlife reinvention. We don't like to use the word midlife crisis, but
Yeah.
they're called to it in different ways, that for a lot of the time, the men are called to it because of loss, loss of relevance in the workplace, loss of my physical attributes, whatever else it might be. More women I speak to, and this is why I think they're excited by it, they're called to it by expansion, i.e. there might be something more for me to experience, a new place to travel, whatever it might be. It's kind of that call to growth and expansion. And definitely when we did the survey, we were asking about what is everyone's priorities in the second half of their lives. Men were saying finances is number one. Women were saying personal growth and a sense of adventure. So
Yeah.
that kind of proves it as well. And I mean, definitely our survey said for both sexes, there is nearly half of people are in survival mode, not thriving mode. It's just that men are doing worse than women are.
Yeah, which is really, really sad. And I was only speaking to my husband the other day, and he was saying that he's been speaking to a lot of his mates who are all saying the same thing. They're in their early 50s and they're starting to reassess their lives. Like, do I really want to be doing what I'm doing now for the next 10, 15 years? And most of them have said no. So I think the fact that they're having the conversation, which I was so proud of him, I thought, wow, you discussed your feelings, which is awesome. But I think that is so encouraging because our dad's generations would never, ever have done something like that. And I'm always comparing our generation to the one before because I think our generation is definitely the one who is leading the way and is going to change the narrative for our kids and then their kids. And Matt, with being in the rugby world, are you noticing also a change with, say, the younger players coming through? Do you think that there's a different mindset compared to our generation?
Absolutely. And I mean, our folks were saying the same thing about us, by the way. So, we're an evolving species, and the speed of evolution has, taken off through the roof. And there's every now and then an overbalance in that area, I notice. So, and that creates vulnerability. It's not a bad thing, but it's certainly something that will need to be addressed.
Yes.
With the development of relationships in particular, these things at the moment, and the power of whoever designed them is an absolute genius of what a major distraction they can be. And Susan talks a lot on that in our leadership programs. But as far as younger people, I still strongly believe there should be an emotional regulation or emotional understanding curriculum at school. So people actually understand there's a reason we have emotions. They're really cool when you understand them. They're just a signal. I always use the example, like if you've got a rock in your shoe, what do? People go, take it out, because that's your body giving you a physical signal going, discomfort. And if you ignore that discomfort, that turns to pain, then to agony. See, our body gives us some great emotional frustration, and take the rock out at frustration. Don't wait till you get to rage. And I didn't understand that. I was told to suck it up and have a cup of concrete, and it's so redundant. It's so redundant in modern life. But I'm not dumb. I was just never taught that.
No.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I think the way that we're teaching our younger people about emotions just needs to evolve slightly, just to make it very accessible and make them understand their power, the power of emotions, and who actually can control them the most. And that's been them.
Yeah, that's right. Just being taught that it's okay to have emotions, to feel what you're feeling. And that's why I think a book like yours is so encouraging and having that perspective. So Matt, you've been open about your health challenges, and especially after your football career. What did that shift in the way that you look at midlife yourself now by going through that?
I think there's one word, and you've mentioned it about 4 times already, so not that I'm counting, but, is being. How do you wanna be? Not do you wanna, like, my whole identity was attached to my past, is what I'd done, and then I was thinking about what am I gonna do? But who are you gonna be? And so often we're not actually we're caught in the past and our past. I don't It took me a while to be okay, to be proud of my past. And rather than going, I'm not that, I don't do that. That's not who I am anymore. I was a little bit like that for a while, and that's not
Right.
helpful. That's not helpful.
No. But was that because you held shame with that,
No,
or
no, I just didn't want to be identified as a footy coach anymore. I want to be identified, but that people aren't going to say, well, that's how I know you. So it's fine. That I made that an issue for me. And this is a
yeah,
lot of I men struggle, by the way. And then
yeah,
so what am I going to do? Rather than, how do I want to be? I've got 4 daughters, I've got grandkids. How do you want to be around these people that you love and care for? How do you want to be when you show up? And what I learned through my mentors is that, Leon said to me one day, your state's contagious. And I went, what? What do you mean? He said, and he, yelled at me and said, your state's contagious, eh? And he, and he basically said to me, what are the people that you love and care for catching off you? And
yeah,
that's what I went, oh, okay. So that sort of rattled me a fair bit. I still get pins and needles, and that's nearly a decade ago. It's, that's the sort of thing where I went, okay, things, and my subconscious conditioning is really powerful. I'm,
wow,
it's not something that it's all gone now. I have to
no,
I've reconditioned my mind to
mm,
understand I don't need to be that way anymore. And this is how I want to be. I want to be someone who enjoys life. I want to be someone who enjoys being healthy, I don't have to graft exercise. I don't have to graft at work. I can enjoy it.
yeah,
Who gets
yeah,
to choose?
that's perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's constant. You've got to be working at it all the time, don't you? Because we're forever evolving. And I go on about, evolving all the time. And it's true. Just when you think you reach that level, you go, oh, I can just back off. Nah, you just keep going. And I think you can't. Sometimes my downfall is I look at it as I have to reach that mountain. When I get to that, then I'm just going to relax for a bit and just enjoy it. But I think you have to enjoy it along the way, not just from one point to another constantly, because I think that adds a lot of pressure, especially in midlife. You're thinking, well, what's next now? So once you get to that, then what's after that? I think we just get so confused. And I think I liked, what you said about being present and just looking at your day and just really taking it in. And I think sometimes we forget about that because we're so worried about the next day or what's happening in the future that, time's passing us by. So, you talk about the tools in your book. What tools would you suggest that someone who's feeling a little bit stuck at the moment and not knowing how to shift, how can they do that? How can they take that step to finding what their purpose is or something that's going to fill their cup?
Mm. I think the first step is around people just reimagining and giving themselves permission to define what winning the second half is to them. Because a lot of the time it's like the Jag story. It's like my friends say I should be doing something, or society says we should be achieving, achieving, achieving. But what does winning look like to me? Because another interesting thing that came out of the survey was that, and we know that happiness follows a bit of a U shape as we age. So, for example,
Right.
happiness, it's well researched, dips in our 20s and 30s, more as we're starting to raise families and have some of those burdens. But then the well established research says it starts to again hit its peak at 40. Our survey actually said that people aren't getting happy until their 70s. And I think that is that thing about what you were saying before. I've got to do this, climb this mountain, and then I'm going to be able to be relaxed or live the second half exactly according to me. But I think it's about just giving yourself permission to define what winning is for you and to do it on your own terms,
Yeah.
not based on anyone else's expectations, or those expectations that you have on yourself. Because I think, yeah, we're just too much into ticking off the to-do list, sorting out the financial stability, making sure that I've milked everything out of my career before I can have joy. And that's just a crazy way to run that equation to me.
Yeah,
For me,
absolutely.
oh, sorry, Michelle. I was
No,
going to
go
say,
ahead. Yeah, love to hear your point of view.
for me, the primary tool is self-awareness. So you're in
Mhm.
Noosa, right? So if you want to get to Brisbane, like that's a really handy goal to have, but you need to know you're in Noosa.
Mhm.
And so I think the first thing is just like, I am miserable. Now we bullshit to ourselves all the time, particularly males, right? How you going?
Yeah.
Great. You
Yep.
sure?
Yeah.
Um, so the biggest tool that you can have is, and there's different ways of tapping into your self-awareness, but actually sitting with yourself and spending time and being honest. Where am I now? And where would I like to get to? And what do I need to do to get from where I am now? I'm really basic, as you can see. What do I need to do to get from where I am now to where you want to get to? And then you can actually start to head in the right direction. But until
Yeah.
you do that, you know,
Mm.
I always, a rainbow's not going to hit you in the bum. Okay,
No.
you've actually got to develop, and we know this in life, right? But that doesn't need to be. Everyone then makes that a burden. Why does it have to be a burden? Why can't that be fun? Why can't? How boring would it be if everything was still the same as it was when we were young?
Yeah,
It'd,
no. If you look at it that way, dreadful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, and it was fun. I loved it then, but it's not like that now. So I've
Mm-mm.
got a choice, don't I? Oh, God, back in my day, have the
Yes.
conversation.
I know, remember? That used to be said a lot.
I don't know.
Grandparents used to say that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
well, I just think that, like, really embrace it. And that's the lesson I got from the book. Again, I edited it a few times and then I read it for the third time. I went, oh, like, I know all this stuff. What am I doing with it? And that's
Yeah.
probably the best tool is understanding who you are. And then there's a whole lot of other tools that you can get to progress in the direction that you want. It might
Great.
not be health that you need. It may be emotional regulation that you need. It may be
Yeah.
mental clarity that you need. For a lot of guys like me, we're looking for, what's this stuff? What's this energetic stuff? Is it religion? Is it spirituality? Is it quantum physics? What is it? What, just to have some sort of understanding where all that unknown stuff comes from.
Yeah.
I was just going to add to that absolutely the self-awareness piece, and then broadening out from there, it's also realizing that the answers are always holistic. So, for example, a lot of people, if they're considering things like the second half or aging in general, you'll tend to zero in on one thing, like it's physical, it's about my bones, and therefore I need to do weight training, or it's mental. I don't want to go down the path of cognitive decline, so I'm going to do Sudoku. And definitely what we recommend in the book is that all of the tools range from physical tools to mental and mindset tools. Mindset's probably the biggest piece in all of this as well. But then emotional tools, but also the energy slash spiritual tools, and that all of those things interlink and play off each other to really contribute to a better life.
Yeah. It's really interesting just listening to for the holistic side of things. I was raised a Christian and I guess never really thought about spirituality because it just wasn't something that people talked about back in the day. Now it's everywhere and I love it. I find it is for me, it's really helped me move through this stage. And I did a lot of work on myself. to be able to stand up and be brave enough to put myself out on this platform. And I attribute that to my spirituality. And I think that had a lot to do with bringing myself into this space of feeling empowered. Now, I know a lot of people go, oh, that's all a lot of, woo-woo, and I'm not really into it. But I think more and more people give it a chance. I really think they can see beyond what society has placed as being a bit weird. I mean, you think about all the wonderful retreats that you can go on, spiritual awakening, all the books that you read. It is so, the evidence also attached to what it does to people's lives. I think that blows my mind. So I love the fact that your book also touches on that, because yes, you can be healthy with what you put in your body, you can exercise, but it's your mind, your mental well-being is so important. And I think a lot of that has got to do with the holistic side of life. I think it flows very well with each other. So it's, have you both had that type of experience yourself? I mean, have you always looked at spirituality in this sense for a long time, or is it something that's new?
I think, Matt, will I go first?
Go first.
I think it comes back to your introduction about, Matt's conversations with Deepak Chopra and my meeting
I want to
of
know
the
about
Dalai.
this.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I was just reflecting the other day that I think I've been training for this book my whole life, because I don't see that I had a pronounced midlife crisis, but I had a quarter life crisis. And I was lucky that in my 20s, I just woke up to the fact that all of the to-do lists that we'd been encouraged to, save money, buy a house, get the husband, do this, that, and the other, that
Yeah.
ticking of to-do lists is not the stuff that brings happiness. So I had quite an awakening back then, and I believed that the key to happiness probably came from going to New York and going shopping and doing something, for a girl who grew up in North Queensland, that felt like that's where the Mecca would be. But what ended up accidentally happening is that I ended up at a conference with the Dalai Lama, and it was the first dialogue between the Dalai Lama and Buddhists and the world leading neuroscientists and psychologists and psychotherapists around the nature of the mind. And to cut a long story short, I ended up having a personal meeting with the Dalai Lama, and just what I heard that day, that happiness has got nothing to do with anything happening externally. And boy, this is a nice lesson to learn at 26, I think I was. That just pretty much the trajectory of my life. So spirituality since then has been sort of front and center in my life. Interestingly, I agree with you, Michelle, that it is changing, and Matt will have a perspective on how woo-woo it might be for men. But it was interesting that we just had some winning the second half events in the last couple of weeks in both Sydney and Brisbane. And in that, we had a holistic, we had organic farmers, we had mental testing, all of this different thing to cover all of the areas. The by far most popular stall that had a lineup out the door was the tarot card readers, and it wasn't just the women that were lining for that. It was
Really?
it was a lot of the footy guys were lining up for the tarot card readers. So
Wow.
I think this thing that seemed, very woo-woo and weird is now becoming mainstream, and that's great.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I love it. And what about you, Matt? You met Deepak. How cool is that? I've only just started to get into him. I didn't really know much about him, and then when I was reading that you met him, I thought, oh, this is very cool.
I haven't just met him. We're mates. So
Your mates.
yeah.
Wow. That's
No,
that's even cooler.
Well, he's also human as well as a guru. So, he likes cricket. I
Yeah.
like cricket. So we talk about that sort of stuff. Just on the spirituality side of things. Look, there's been so many descriptions of this stuff for thousands and thousands of years, right? Some people call it religion, and then it was spirituality, and then it was, lifestyle like Taoism and Buddhism, which isn't, and then we've got quantum physics and even atheists, right?
Mm.
And
Yep.
I don't think that the label of it's important. What we do understand is there's an energy that sits behind everything, right? Doesn't matter what you call it. And that was for me first to realize, okay. And so some people are these devout religious people, but they don't act in a good way. They're not being who they should be, right? And you've got these other people that are spiritual gurus, and they're not really that nice. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I think all the terminology, first of all, is bullshit to me. And what I strongly believe in is there's an energy, whatever you want to call it, that we don't and we'll never know about fully. That's really cool because we want to explore it. We want to understand it. We want to be able to explain it. We want to be able to, manifest it and all this sort of stuff. This is not about that, in my opinion. This is an opinion, right? This is not, this is what it really is. But no one can deny there's an energy that sits behind everything. Even atheists, right? That's what I was before I got into Deepak stuff, right? So that's my first thing on that is that I think people it's not woo-woo. None of it's woo-woo. Why would we have been doing things for tens of thousands of years if it was woo-woo?
Exactly.
I think that there's a cynic in me that sort of thinks that some people design it as being woo-woo because it actually makes people super healthy and develops that self-awareness that we talked about. And there's not a lot of money in people being healthy, but let's not go down that pathway. How did I meet Deepak? This is can I give you the shorts? You can read my first book and that's the full story, but the short story is, I heard him interviewed. I heard him interviewed by Anthony Robbins, and I'm not an Anthony Robbins person, but he's really good at interviewing. And I listened to this guy, this atheist footy coach driving along. I went, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then I heard Wayne Dyer interviewed in the next interview CD that was given to me in my car. Remember those CDs? Anyway, and I went, oh, that makes sense. Anyway, I started reading his books. That was back in the day when you had to sneak into the bookstore out the back and, put a Playboy over the Deepak Chopra book that you'd bought. So no one.
That's so funny. Yeah, you would have been a real weirdo, actually. Someone would have seen you reading that book.
Well, buying Deepak's, the first book I bought of Deepak's was The Secret, and it's still my favorite book of all time.
Yeah.
And, but I had to, what was it? The mindfulness section of the bookstores back in the day, I'd sneak up the back and grab the book. But anyway, I read that book and it made a lot of sense to me. So that was in 2003. Then 2007, Deepak came to Sydney, and I saw that he was on, and so I was like, still frightened to death. This is a footy coach in 2007 going to a Deepak event, and there was about 1,500 people there. And prior to it, I obviously was a bit nervous and had been drinking a lot of water, so I went and stood up in the bathroom, and this guy came and stood beside me and started talking to me.
No way.
I'm sitting staring straight ahead, and this guy's going, oh yeah, how's the footy going? I'm like, oh my God, this can't be happening. Anyway, I got out of there and went, well, anyway, so I went and sat 3/4 of the way back in the room to the left-hand side, as you do, trying to, just sitting down on my chair like this.
Yeah, hiding
kind of. And anyway, I'm sitting there watching, and this guy walks on the stage. He was the guy that was standing beside me literally 2 minutes ago, came on the stage to introduce Deepak. And he went on and told this really, really long story. And they said, and today the cycle's complete, because on that day when I first met Deepak, Matt Elliott scored the winning try against, and I was like, He did not say my name. And
Oh my gosh.
is Leon well enough? No, that was pretty much it. And so that I went to the green room, and that's where I sort of learned how Deepak gives people access to understanding. And yeah, so he started my understanding of, what our signal is and where it comes from and how it's different to our body. And yeah, so, and then we
What
talked.
a story.
Oh,
My
that's the
gosh.
short, that is a short version, I promise you.
Yeah, well,
There's
you know
another
what?
similarity. I thought it was just women that made random connections in bathrooms, but
Yeah.
obviously that's something similar
Yeah,
between the genders.
That's my only connection in a bathroom. I was just letting you know that.
But it's a good story. And you know what? What it says, that was meant to happen. That was so meant to happen to you. That's incredible.
Well, the guy that was standing beside me I meet him every week now, and
Yeah.
he's not only one of my closest friends, he's my mentor in so many different ways.
Oh, that's an awesome story. I love that, Matt. Wow. And you've got Deepak to thank for it. There you go.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
having the owner of Hay House Australia as a good friend, I got access to a lot of people. A
Yeah,
lot.
and you met lovely Susan. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh. Well, guys, I would love to talk to you for a lot longer, but obviously we have to wrap this up. I'd like to ask you both a question. If you could each describe in one sentence what winning the second half means to you, what would it be? Susan?
Mm-hmm. One sentence. To me, it's desire and freedom, but fueled by wisdom. So I'm linking it back to something I'm seeing. And, there's a term now for middle ages, middlescence, because of how similar it is to adolescence.
Adolescence,
So I
yes.
see my son who has just got his license and he's got this freedom. He's got all of these desires and things he wants to do, but not a lot of it is through any lens of logic or experience. And it's kind of like we're going through the same things. We have desires, we have that search for freedom, but this time it's done with the wisdom of the first half and the wisdom that we know that there's a foundation of, all of our spiritual, emotional, physical things. So, that's not a sentence, but there's
Oh,
a
no,
bigger
I love that. But that's to
Right.
me, that
That's
just made
why
me
the
feel so.
female part of the book's thicker than the male part
Yeah.
of the book. Oh, it's
You've always got a lot more to say. But I love that, Susan. That's actually made me feel really excited because I think there's a lot to do with our experience. We have it whereas a young child, they have none. So they're just finding their way. Whereas now we kind of have the logic, the wisdom to really be able to step into our second acts with so much more power because of all of that and to really make the life that we really want for ourselves, whatever the hell that is. And you, Matt, how would you? Have you got one sentence or have you got a paragraph?
No, I've got a sentence.
Okay.
I'll say choosing to love life regardless of your birth certificate.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a
And
choice.
can you? Yes.
All I'm saying is that right now I could choose to be in an emotional state, whatever I want to be. I could be angry now if I wanted to. I could be bored now if I wanted to. I could be engaged now if I wanted to. I could be loving every second of this if I wanted to. I always say this, it's easier to sit on the lounge than it is to exercise. It's easier to go to Macca's than to get a healthy home-cooked meal. It's
true.
much easier to have
Yeah.
the shits than it is to be happy. I'm just
Yeah.
encouraging people to, to choose, make that choice. People make a choice that they're going to be unhappy because they look at their birth certificate or their driver's license and they look at their date of birth and go, oh, it's time for me to be grumpy. It's not.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Absolutely, it's not. And more of that, I think the future is exciting and whatever's happened in the past is in the past. I'm all about what's ahead of me. So more of that. Thank you guys for writing this book. I think it's awesome. And I love the fact that it's just the perspective of a male and a female. It's a great, great book. Where can we purchase this book?
Here we go. Look,
Oh,
you can buy this. You can go to any online, so Amazon or Booktopia,
Okay,
or you
great.
can go to the Change Room .info.
Yes, which is, can you just give me a little bit on the Change Room? It's your coaching business?
It's a well-being business predominantly, but we don't separate well-being from performance. So you can't have sustained performance without well-being, and you
That's
can't
right.
have well-being without performance. And the outcome of that is profitability, and a whole lot of other things that go alongside it. That's great fun. So that's available that's probably slightly cheaper on our website than it is through Booktopia and Amazon. So that's
Okay, great.
www.thechangeroom.info.
and we've
Okay,
got the
great.
Kindle version as well on Amazon, and there will be an audio book that we'll be recording in upcoming 6 months, which is going to be loads of fun.
Yes, that will be fun.
Can I contract you to do my part of it, Michelle, please?
No, I wouldn't give it the justice that it deserves. My gosh. Well, guys, thank you so much. I'll leave all those links in the show notes, and I wish you all the best with, your new book.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Your Second Act. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could rate and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to me.